I remember walking into this dark room. There was a projector, there was a screen, and then there was that pastor. I remember him attaching these wires to different parts of my body. And whenever I say popped up on the screen, it was seeing couples engaged in same video. And I remember thinking, this is how I'm gonna die. I was adopted at the age of 2 years old. I knew something was quote unquote like different with me at a very young age. And then, going throughout that, I grew up with an stepfather, very manipulative. At that time, I felt really alone. But going throughout school, I was not as developed as other people. So I was reading a little bit slower. I was being bullied like very heavily, and I just felt like very isolated from everybody else. I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. I was the outcast, and I mainly just spent a lot of time with my mom, but we got really close, And it wasn't until I hit high school that I started realizing that I had attraction to other boys, and I came out as bisexual. And the way that I came out was I wrote my parents a 5.5-page note. At the time that I wrote that letter, I was being very heavily bullied and sued. I was being told that you're going to be nothing, you're going to amount to nothing, you're this and you're that, and you're going to go to hell for believing what you, for your lifestyle, and you're going to go to hell for this, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do that. At that time, I didn't know what the words meant. I didn't know what the word gay was. I didn't know what the word was. I didn't know any of that. And I was like, okay, I'm being told I don't have a reason to be here. I'm being told I don't have a right to be here. I'm going to hell. I was like, well, might as well just do it myself. I recognized that I needed to say something. So I wrote that 5.5-page letter, and my mom remembers it. And I remember sitting in my room, just letting it all out. I remember just writing on the paper, and I remember her coming into my room saying, what is this? Why didn't you say something? Why didn't you let me know how you're feeling, what you were going through? I said, I didn't know how. And I didn't know how you would respond to it. I didn't grow up around anybody who was, for me, it was a shock whenever she came in and she was like, why didn't you tell me? And it's like, oh God, I'm gonna get my ass beat or, something. But no, she was actually very calm about it. And she was like, okay, I'm your mother. She said, I don't understand, but I'm not gonna judge you for it. And since that day, I felt even closer to her. I also noticed a switch in my stepfather. He started treating me different and started acting different around me. And I think a lot of it was his upbringing. Because I noticed people didn't come around a lot. People didn't want to be around me. And if they were around me, we were in the hospital because my grandparents were sick. That's the only time they came around. We stopped doing the holidays. If we did do holidays, it was very awkward. But I've been alone for so long. At that point, it's like, this is nothing new. Fast forward, high school was very rough. I was in and out of mental health hospitals. I was hospitalized 2 to 3 different times. I was on different medications. There's only so many times that you can be told something before you begin to believe it. And I was believing everything that people were telling me. But I still felt so isolated. I was that weird kid that just sat by themselves at lunch that didn't have anybody else around them. And nobody understood why. And I went to my local police department, and I was not believed. I was told, well, you're a man. Why didn't you fight him off? Well, don't you think I tried? Why do you think I'm here? I'm telling you something that is very deep and personal to me. I'm obviously very shaken up. I'm literally shaking like an absolute leaf. To be told, why didn't you fight him off? Were you not strong enough? That takes me back to the childhood days. As I mentioned earlier, that takes me back to that because, again, I didn't fit in. I did not fit in anywhere. I wasn't masculine. I wasn't feminine. I wasn't this. I wasn't that. One night I went and got on social media and I saw a lot of Westboro Baptist Church, and I learned about conversion therapy. I wasn't forced into it by my parents. I remember walking into this dark room. There was a projector, there was a screen, and then there was that pastor. And I remember just having different wires. And I remember thinking, what did I just walk into? This is a really dark room. I remember him attaching these wires to different parts of my body. And whenever I say pop it up on the screen, it was seeing couples engaged in same video. I remember the first time that I felt a shock go through my body. I was thinking what is happening right now? What's going on? I got another shock. And I remember thinking, this is how I'm going to die. And I went through that for 2.5 years. I remember sitting at tables and reading Bible verses. I remember, hearing these things told to me over and over and over again. And even years after leaving conversion therapy, I still deal with those shocks on a daily basis. I can still feel them. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't want them to worry about me. I didn't want them to think about it. I know my mom would never support something like that. She would never subject me to something like that. It can't be any worse. It cannot be any worse than this. I came to after leaving conversion therapy by and I remember going to the hospital and having my stomach pumped. And that day that I attempted to overdose, I remember sitting out in my front yard of my house, and I had a knife in my hand because that's what I was going to use to knife. And I remember hearing the sirens because my mom called 911. She's panicking, she's freaking out. They were coming from all different directions, and it's loud as hell. I used to live in like the suburban part of Kansas City, and I remember, just hearing all those sirens because it echoed, because all the buildings and all the houses, like, it just echoed. And I remember a police officer walking up to me. You have like 10, 15 like emergency vehicles that pull up, and they're all looking at me. They're all staring at me. Neighbors are coming outside like, what the f is going on? I don't know. I'm saying you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. They're here to help. They're here to help. I started feeling very agitated. I felt my body being enraged. I felt everything going on. So that day, I remember being strapped into the ambulance, and there was a cop that came into the ambulance, and he sat down, he looked at me, I think said, "You're going to be okay." And it changed. It changed the way that I was looking at things. It made everything completely worth it at that time to be believed by that police officer. It's like he took like his cop hat off, and like you can spot out the human side of it. Oh my, he was like, "You're going to be okay. You're going to fall through this. You're going to be okay. He's not going to let you do this by yourself." And in that moment, I felt like nothing else mattered. I felt like there was somebody here to listen to me, to believe me. I would have been around 17 or like close to 19 at that time. There used to be an LGBTQ organization in Kansas City that I used to go to a lot. I met him. I remember him coming over to my house. He shut the bedroom door. He's very awkward. He's very tall. He's very skinny. He doesn't look like a typical person. And I remember sitting on the bed, and he looked at me and he was like, "You're going to do everything that I say." He said, you're not going to have a choice. You're going to do everything I say, because this is what happens to people like you. And I was thinking, like, people like me? What do you mean people like me? And I tried to like run off. He pushed me back on the bed. He held me down. And I remember him taking my clothes off like forcibly. I remember him trying to, at that time, and I didn't know what was going on. I was like, what is going on? What is happening? This is the beginning of the end. And I was like, well, maybe he has a point. Maybe he's right. Maybe this is what I deserve. Maybe I did put myself through this. I just laid there because what else can I do? I tried to fight him off. He literally held me down. He was stronger than me. He was older than me. I was very weak. Didn't have a lot of strength. I didn't start going to the gym until like years later. But at that time, I remember thinking like, maybe I do deserve this. And there was so much guilt and so much shame after that day. And I tried to go and report to the police department, and she didn't believe me. He stalked me on social media. I saw him in a lot of different places. Years later, I ran into him at a church. And I'm thinking, like, you couldn't be any further from God than anybody else. If people in this church knew what you did to me, you wouldn't be sitting in this church praying. You better pray a lot harder. I remember him just being so manipulative and so controlling. I wasn't able to hang out with friends. I became very isolated. I became isolated from my mom, which at that point, she knew something was wrong. It's like everything just changed. Like my whole life just changed right after that. Conversion therapy failed. I still feel the same feelings that I did. It didn't change me. So then I got into storytelling, and I started, sharing my story on different stages, in front of crowds and audiences. I remember breaking my silence about conversion therapy for the first time. So then I started volunteering for other organizations, and being around like other LGBTQ people and being around other survivors was definitely a rewarding experience. Literally for the first time, I felt like I had a voice and I had a story to share, and I still have a story to share, which is why I'm here. It's like everything just came full circle moment whenever I started sharing it. And it felt so rewarding and so feeling for me. And, other survivors started reaching out to me and they're like, how can we collaborate? How can we organize? How can we fight back? In October of 2019, I testified before the Kansas City City Council and I shared my story. I remember seeing their emotions go from smiling to like, what the It was a rewarding experience. But our ordinance passed unanimously, and then I was on the news. And our ordinance passed unanimously. We didn't even have to fight like super, super hard because they believed us, they seen us, they heard us, they looked at the data we had. And it was validated by organizations that have been doing this work for decades. Conversion therapy has been debunked by every single psychological organization there possibly is internationally. My mom has been my rock since day one. She's been to events with me. She watched me perform in drag many times. I remember getting on like dating apps. I remember, meeting this guy. Again, he was very manipulative. He was very controlling. I gave him my phone number and he started like literally blowing my phone up. Like whenever we were together, he was constantly looking out the windows, making sure everything was okay and making sure there was nobody coming there. So I remember waking up and I was from an area that you don't normally from. I was like, this is abnormal. This is not normal at all. I decided not to pursue charges because it's like, I cannot face this person again. I will never heal what he took from me and what he cost me. If I get stressed, it gets activated. I remember going to therapy for the first time. Yeah, my therapist looked at me and she's like, what's your story? And I explained to her, like, this is what I was experiencing. This is what I went. She was like, none of it was your fault. She said, you cannot control what somebody else does to you. What you can control is how they make you feel. I think if I wouldn't have went through what I went through, I wouldn't be doing the work that I do now. And to advocate for other survivors who do not have a platform like I do, I got on Facebook and I was like, I want to start organizing. I just don't know how. And then I remember getting a DM saying, I'm going to connect you to a couple different people. And thus, Survivors for Heroes was born. I am the founder of the Rise Above Justice movement, a national grassroots movement and gender-based violence survivors advocating for marginalized communities and using our platform to amplify the stories that do not reach the headlines by mainstream media. That is a true mission and true power of storytelling. Using our words to amplify and share the voices of others is rewarding. This is a pivotal moment for me. This movement is more than a movement. It's a mission because it's so complex. There's so many different people in the world and different viewpoints, different political beliefs, different backgrounds, different like everything. But in the end, coming together and seeing all this come together, so I'm grateful and I will never take it for granted. I wouldn't have went through what I went through. Ooh, that's enough. See that sometimes. But I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now because I was very closed off. I was very close-minded. I was going to give a damn about this right now. It's here now and I need to make the use of it. I need to do something.